We are now live on Facebook. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Nonprofit Partnerships Facebook page. And we haven't done one of these in a little while, so we are so glad to be back. And we're back in style. And just wait till you meet our guest today. We're totally excited to have her join us and talk a little bit more about her organization. But before we do, just want to say hello. I'm Carolina Quesada with the Nonprofit Partnership, welcoming you to this segment of Our Stories, Our Time. In this series, we interview nonprofit leaders to understand how organizations are navigating through the challenges of these current times. And let me just say before we get started and before I introduce Madison, that is a big hint for you. I just want to say that October is Arts Month. And Arts Month is an opportunity for everybody to focus our attention on the creative community and to encourage area residents and visitors to engage in the arts by having at least one new cultural experience during the month of October. And so as soon as you get to know a little bit more about our special guest today, you are definitely going to line up in time for the holidays show, which I'm not going to reveal too much. I promise, Madison, I'll let you talk about that. But before I introduce her, the Nonprofit Partnership would like to thank the Port of Long Beach for their generous support of our series. And again, if you are watching us live today, please, please, please do engage with us by leaving a question or a comment for our guest in the comments box. And with that, I would love to introduce Madison Mooney, Executive Director of the Long Beach Playhouse. Yay, Long Beach Playhouse. Welcome, Madison.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. And definitely really excited about the opportunity to learn more about the Playhouse. And here was one, tidbit that I was checking with you, that the Playhouse is the oldest continually running community theater on the West Coast. So I'm sure there's a great story behind that, and there's a lot of, history with the Playhouse in Long Beach. But can you tell us a little bit more about, just the background of the Playhouse? Who was involved in some of the initiation or what's been going on in the last several years of the Playhouse?
Yes, definitely. Yes, the Playhouse is the oldest continually operating community theater west of the Mississippi. But I do put a big asterisk by that now, since we were kind of, closed for a year and a half. But no other theater was, also. So I feel like we still have that that title, even if there is an asterisk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Playhouse was founded back in 1929 by Long Beach residents. They were a collection, a group of artists. They were performers and writers and people interested in theater that wanted to put on a show. And it actually started inside the Pacific Coast Club, which was this fancy members only club downtown, and then eventually grew to be bigger than just the members, seeing these shows. And the company were in a few different locations near downtown Long Beach and mid Long Beach. And then in 1949, they bought a plot of land on Anaheim Street and built the Long Beach Playhouse, which is my Zoom background. And then the first performance was on our main stage in February of 1951. And then we've been here on Anaheim ever since. We added on a second stage, our studio stage upstairs in the mid 60s. And then there's been, shows going on throughout the years up until, right now we've got two shows. One show just closed. We're about to open another one. And then there's one running on our studio. So usually on our two stages, we produce 13 shows a year, plays and musicals. On our main stage, we have our more family-friendly or more community theater traditional works. We've got our murder mysteries and our big musicals and our farces. Upstairs in our studio theater, we usually do a five show season. And upstairs in the studio is usually a bit more contemporary, a bit edgier, a bit more adult-oriented productions, so that with the studio and the main stage in the 13 different productions, we're trying to reach everybody. throughout the 13 shows. We've got some comedies, we've got some dramas, we've got some newer works, we've got some classics. And if you're someone that really enjoys, an over the top farce, we've got something like that. If you like Shakespeare, we try to do, a Shakespeare year. So with our different productions, we try to hit everybody, in the Long Beach community and other surrounding cities that they would want to come see a show. So we've got our main productions, and we're a community theater. Like we had mentioned earlier, we have volunteers that are our performers, volunteers that are our crew. They're amateur actors. They're not in a union or anything like that, or being paid. It's their passion. This is a passionate community theater. So everyone has their own day job, and then this is their wonderful hobby that they get to share and create with everybody.
And what a way to attract those folks that are very much passionate about theater arts in particular. So you are that location. You have been that place for a long time. And absolutely, I think, the productions coming out of the Playhouse, quality productions by far, and very varied, to your point. There's a lot of variety there in what is offered, a little bit for everyone's taste, it sounds like. But the Playhouse isn't just about performance, so to speak, right? I think you've got a couple of other really active areas, and one of those is education. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So coming out of the pandemic, we're still working on bringing back our education aspects. Usually every summer we do a summer youth musical theater conservatory. It's a 3-week program, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, an all-day camp with, music and singing and dance and acting and improv and theater history and appreciation. And it's a wonderful summer camp. So unfortunately, we haven't been able to do it the last 2 summers, but summer 2022, we are going to be back and raring to go with our building bursting at the seams with kids 7 to 17. It's always a strange thing during the week. Usually it's just a few staff members, and then we have rehearsals in the evenings, but then 3 weeks out of the year, we are at capacity with a lot of noise and a lot of kids. So it's always a fun change for the staff that are here during the week. And then from time to time, we're able to offer workshops for adults, for young adults and older adults, audition techniques or musical theater workshops. So that kind of can vary depending on the teachers that are available and all of that. So right now, since we've been reopening, we've been focusing just on our productions, but then 2022 coming up, we're going to be having both some teen workshops and then some adult audition workshops and things like that we're working on right now. So we're hoping to announce that probably in the beginning of 2022, and then having things throughout the year, and having some different opportunities for folks to improve their skills and learn something.
Yeah, wow, that's really something to look forward to in 2022 is being able to tap into all of what you just described right now. Now, the programs and activities for youth, particularly those that allow them to just sort of get immersed into musical theater and some of the other activities you're doing, is that only for Long Beach Unified School District youth, or can any young person, regardless of location?
Oh yeah, that's open for everybody. Unfortunately, we have been able to offer scholarships. We've received scholarship funds in the past from the Gumbiner Foundation and some other groups. And so hopefully we'll be able to offer scholarships as well in 2022, along with, some for the folks that can't afford it, would be able to pay the tuition. But yeah, we're open for anyone in the area. And we've even had a couple of years ago, it was a kid who actually lived in Ohio, but was staying with his grandparents for the summer. And so it was a summer camp experience that surrounded by California kids.
Hey, he had a lot of stories to tell when you went back home.
Yes, definitely.
That's great. Thank you for all of that, Madison. I think that gives us a really good idea of, really what the activities are at the Playhouse, what you've been focused on, and obviously what to look forward to. Because I think we're all, kind of anxious as well to have you reopen. Earlier, I was commenting to you on certainly one of the shows, which I know you're going to talk about a little further on. Again, this is me getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited. But you know what's coming down in the coming months now that we're getting closer to the end of the calendar year and starting a new year pretty soon. But before we get there, you know, what a lot of what we explored during the series is how has the pandemic impacted each organization specifically. And I know that you have your story to tell in this area, and of course, being a performing arts organization, you were heavily impacted. So tell us, you know, what happened when stay-at-home orders came in, and what did the Playhouse do to continue to, you know, well, maybe you didn't operate the way you were operating, but what were you doing? What were some of those major pivots you had to make?
Yeah. So right at the beginning, we had to shut everything down. We had a performance on Thursday, March 12th, and then Friday, March 13th, we did not. We had to, reach out to all the ticket holders, and, we ran refunds or put things on hold. We ended up spending a lot of time the first few weeks trying to figure out what our schedule would be in May when we thought everything was going to be over and we were going to come back and be all in person again. So it was a lot of just kind of figuring out what's the best way to kind of handle, all this, figuring out with our patrons and our staff members, just trying to get all the right information out there. And so then when we kind of realized it was going to be a little bit longer than the first couple of weeks that we all kind of thought back in March, we had to pivot. We couldn't have our normal everyday shows. We couldn't have in-person rehearsals and people, being close and interacting with each other on stage or anything like that. So my artistic director, Sean Gray, came up with a few ideas, and then reaching out and working with a lot of our volunteers and a lot of our directors that we have worked with in the past. We put together these director choice scene festivals. So directors that we have worked with, they picked scenes from shows that they enjoyed, and they reached out to actors, and then we set up Zoom rehearsals and Zoom recordings. So a lot of wonderful volunteers were able to work with us virtually, and so we were able to put up a lot of different types of online productions. Some of them were short scenes. We ended up doing a full Zoom production of Shakespeare's As You Like It this past September, and what we did that month, we released an act a week. So each week in September, we released Act 1, and then the next week we released Act 2. So it was kind of like a limited series being put out. And something that was really cool with that type of production, which is so different than what we can do here in our building, we had actors, that we had worked with before that, were locally based, Long Beach actors and LA actors. And then we ended up, through friends of friends and 6 degrees of separation, we had some actors that were living in New York as a part of our show, so that wouldn't happen in person. We can't, no one's going to be traveling back and forth and commuting from New York to Long Beach. So that was a really cool way to, expand who we work with and who sees our shows. And then we were fortunate with CARES funding through the city of Long Beach that we received some federal funding towards, we were able to put some of that towards programming. So we were able to produce an online production. We usually do a Christmas Carol every December. And what we wanted to do was figure out a way to bring that to our community, and also maybe something that we wouldn't be able to do in person. So what we did was we actually got the script translated to Spanish language. So it ended up being Un Cuento de Navidad, and it was a Spanish language version of Christmas Carol that was, rehearsed on Zoom, and then put out on our YouTube channel for free. And it was great to we hadn't done that before. We hadn't done a Spanish language production before. We're limited with, who we have on staff and what we're able to produce in our seasons. So kind of doing something different like that and getting it out there to different parts of our community in Long Beach that we may not have reached before, was a really fulfilling project to do near the end of the year of
That is
2020.
so cool. And even like both projects as you're describing them, and I'm trying to like kind of envision what it looks like. That is just so amazing, so creative. What a way to continuously engage. I'm just curious to know, in that segmented piece that you did, I think it was the Shakespeare play that you did. What were some of the reactions that you were getting from folks who were tuning in to watch, or kind of trying to access the series as you were putting the material out? Were people anxiously waiting for the next act, or what was some of the feedback you were getting?
Yeah, it was great to see. We really, with I'm sure all theaters and all artistic groups, trying to produce online stuff, in the last year and a half, you put it out there, you don't know how everyone's going to react. In person, it's like you're having a performance and either people are enjoying it or they're not, and it right then. So we did get a
Right.
lot of nice positive comments from folks enjoying the show. And yeah, we would be posting it on our Instagram and our Facebook and our email newsletter, like, okay, act 3 is this weekend, and a lot of great shares and comments and thumbs ups and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, it was well received, which was really nice. Especially just
Great.
trying new
Yeah.
things and stuff that
Right.
we had not done before.
Yeah. No, and you're absolutely right. One does not really appreciate that when you are used to getting sort of that immediate feedback. Well, this way you're not getting that, right? You're kind of putting it out there. But this was a great way, Madison, for us to get a glimpse of how the pandemic is disruptive as it was last year, as disruptive as it is. But it offered an opportunity to do something a little differently. And you even did receive support from the city to reach out and produce something in Spanish, un cuento de Navidad. What else? Are there any other examples of how these challenging times have offered an opportunity for the Playhouse to either work with other groups a little differently, or for you to do something that you weren't quite planning on, but nevertheless you're doing it?
Yeah, it's been a journey, and a lot of trial and error and all of that. And something that we were something else that we were able to do this past year and a half. We have partnered many times through our collaborative series with a great dance troupe, the Cray
Mm.
Project. And they're a
Hmm.
local Long Beach dance troupe. And we worked with them in the past with our collaborative series, them producing a show in our studio theater for, a weekend or two. But then with everything, again, changing, figuring out what are we going to do? How can we, connect with other nonprofits and other arts groups? We partnered with them for the Long Beach Black Dance Festival that happened, I believe it was August of 2020. Now I'm forgetting, it might have been July. I think it was August, but they were looking for a space. We have a parking lot, we were like, okay, maybe we can have you guys here. So they did a socially distanced dance concert. Ended up kind of working. The wind was annoying. So it was like, all right, we tried something. It worked kind of. We probably don't want to do it that way again. And then figuring out different ways with the Cray Project to support them as a small arts organization. We were able to figure out and assist them with, some rehearsal space and some of that for their dance projects that they had been working on and with small groups and small casts. So that was a great way to kind of figuring out, we have a building, we are using it in a certain way. It could be used somehow, how else can we figure out how to use it? So that was a nice way to connect with another arts organization during that time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And a nice way to also illustrate how here is a nonprofit in our community that has a building, that has also the ability to do something outdoors, because this is part of your property, and how you're leveraging that, and also leveraging it to work with others as well. So thank you so much for sharing that and giving us a glimpse into what it's looked like in the last year and a half with the Playhouse. So tell us a little bit more about what the future holds for the Playhouse. What are you aiming for in the next couple of months? And if you can give us a glimpse into, and we've kind of heard a little bit what to expect in 2022. Would love to know more about what's coming down the pike.
Yeah. So right now, we are running Angels in America Part One, Millennium Approaches, upstairs in our studio. We just opened that the other weekend, and it's running until the end of October. So that's Friday and Saturday nights and Sunday afternoons. And then next weekend, October 23rd, is going to be opening night for Sister Act the musical on our main
Oh,
stage. We're really excited to do a musical. We, haven't done one in like 2 years. So getting back, having a live band, having, and especially with Sister Act, nuns and disco, you can't go wrong.
how can you go wrong with that combo?
It's wonderful. It's everything we've all needed. So we're back up and going. We're this week we have auditions for A Christmas Carol. We're going to be doing Christmas
Mm-hmm.
Carol again on our main stage. That's opening up in early December and running most weekends before Christmas. And then in a couple of weeks we have another set of auditions. We're going to usually in January and February we produce and put up a murder mystery, and usually it's an Agatha Christie murder mystery. So we will be having auditions in a few weeks for Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie, and that'll be going up in January. And that's always, the murder mystery is always a lot of fun, and always a big hit with our patrons, trying to figure out who done it, and seeing all the tips, the tricks on stage with some of that murder mystery.
And what a classic. You're working with Agatha
Yeah,
Christie here. So that's
yeah,
great.
it's going to be a fun one. And then for the rest of the 22 main stage season, we're going to be announcing the rest of them at opening night for Sister Act. So if you're really curious to know what we're going to do in 2022, at least for the first half of 2022,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to want to check out Sister Act opening night, and we'll be putting it out online and everywhere following the opening weekend.
No, that's great. But we got to be there open for
Yeah,
Sister
you
Act
got to
to
come to opening
know.
night.
So for those of you just like me, totally curious, go to Sister Act. We'll find out that night. Sorry, I think I cut you off. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about 2022?
So something else that we usually do with our studio theater, we have our collaborative series, and so that's something that usually runs from December through March, and it's either individual artists or other arts organizations that may not have their own theater space to produce works and use our studio theater to put their work out.
Mm-hmm.
So like groups like the Cray Project, we've partnered with for the collaborative, and they've done dance shows. And, we've partnered with lots of different individual artists, and then like improv groups like Held Together, and some other P3, which is another local theater company.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, our artistic director, Sean, has been going through all the applications and figuring out that season. So we'll be announcing that soon as well. I don't have all those details yet, but that'll be up in the studio. And usually it's a 1 weekend run or a 2 weekend run. So we're able to have a lot of different groups involved. And so especially since other groups and other artists have not been able to produce, things like they probably have wanted to the
Right.
last 2 years.
Right.
I'm glad that we're able to bring the collaborative series back and expose our patrons and our audiences to more and more wonderful artists and groups in Long Beach.
Wow. And let me just say, Madison, I mean, it's not only great to hear about everything that the Playhouse typically does, what you've done in the last year and a half. And it sounds like, and sorry to make it sound a little so simplistic, but it sounds like the pandemic hasn't slowed you down, really. I mean, it's like giving you this opportunity to really
I wouldn't say that, but
no, yes, and I know, which is why I'm like, I know this doesn't, this isn't right. It's not accurate. But I think you're also demonstrating how just all the creativity, and I think the love for community that you've exemplified, and I think to your point, bringing back this collaborative series. Wow, what a partner and what a resource you are in our community as well. So just want to call that out and thank you for all of that, and can't wait to hear more. So I will have to go to Sister Act because I have to know what else is coming down. So let me ask you, as we are, in many ways reemerging from the pandemic, I don't even know if that's, the way that I should be asking the question anymore, because I think, we've we are feeling used to normalizing certain things. You know, we're wearing masks, we're keeping a decent physical distance from each other and whatnot. But as we are seeing more and more organizations more consistently reopen and reemerge, if you will, what would you like to see for our city as we're doing more and more of this, or for our region, or for the community? What would you like to see more of?
Well, I have so many thoughts on that. One, kind of arts minded and arts organization, thought process of just, the last year and a half, depending on, your situation, you probably, enjoyed a lot of content on your screens.
Mhm.
And hopefully now that things are reopening and that, museums are opening, symphonies are opening, theaters are opening, that, you take a break from your screen and kind of try to enjoy and embrace, art, right in front of you. I know it's so easy to just, binge whatever you want, it's,
Mhm.
hanging out in your bed and just, doing that. But hopefully I hope people embrace in-person arts events again, just because I know that the organizations have missed their audiences. I know the performers have missed their audiences,
Mhm.
and it just elevates any sort of performance, to have an audience. And then personally, that's something that I know myself that I have been working on going out into the world. I hope that folks, if it's a restaurant they're going to, or an event, or traveling, or a meeting, that people bring more patience and understanding and empathy out in the world with them. With so many, problems, if it's, staffing issues or supply chain issues or all that, when there's problems, just take a moment to try to, is this the most important thing to get worked up about? Everyone that we're interacting with now, you have no idea what they've been through the last year and a half.
Mhm.
So just taking that and taking a moment to kind of be a bit more at peace.
Mhm.
Um, so I hope everyone can kind of bring that with them when they go back out into the world, because we've all been figuring out and trying to get through it. So work with
Wow.
the people around you.
Just listening to you at this very moment is helping me center. Thank you so much, Madison. Thank you for your words of wisdom, and that reminder, right, to just kind of pause and have some compassion. But yes, also as we're reemerging, let's support our arts organizations. Could not have said it better. So before we conclude the interview today, Madison, what is the best way to get a hold of you, get a hold of, your box office? Or I know you have a website. It's a beautiful website. I was just there today. What is the best way to follow you and to keep in touch with you?
Yeah, so our website is lbplayhouse.org. It's got all the breakdown of, what shows are coming up. You can buy tickets via the website. It has all the box office information if you prefer to, buy a ticket in person or buy over the phone. We have our box offices open Wednesday through Saturday to take your calls, or stop by in person 3 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Mhm.
And then we have an Instagram page and a Twitter and a Facebook, all under, it's either LB Playhouse or Long Beach Playhouse. So people can find us on there. We try to keep everyone updated with, new
Right.
pictures and videos of what we've got working on and going on each weekend. And come out and see a show Fridays and Saturday nights, and then Sunday afternoons. Nearly like 51 weeks out of the year, 50 out of 52 usually.
Wow.
It's hard to remember what we did in the before times,
Yes,
but
in the before.
we're getting back into it.
That's great. And you're also pretty active on Facebook or Instagram?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
Facebook, Instagram, and then we have a Twitter account that is it'll be getting bigger. I'm trying to tweet more.
Well, and there's lots that's coming down the pike for you. So yes, I'm sure you'll be keeping busy tweeting. So Madison, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time to just chat with us today. And best of luck, Sister Act. Here I come.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Bye everyone. Please keep in touch with the Playhouse.